Business Spotlight.
It's one of those professions that if you do it right, no one knows you're there. What are we talking about? We're talking about looping. I'm Bella Shaw, and we have two very special guests today on the Biz Spotlight. Peter, Pamela Rose, and Jason Harris of the Looping Division join us today from Los Angeles. And it's so good to have you both here. A husband and wife team. You've been doing this many, many years. If you go to your website, you've got a slew of shows that everybody I know has seen. So good to have you.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us. It's great to be here.
Jason, let's start with you. What are some of the things a looper does?
Anything vocal in a show that's not being done by the principal actors or covered by the loop group. Sometimes even some of the principal actors' efforts, and if they're having a fight scene or something, we may do that as well. So a looper will do all the background scenes, which could be like a busy police station, or or an ER, emergency room, or it could be a newscast, or it could be a radio or a TV show that you hear in the background, anything vocal that you hear. Sometimes it can be even more elaborate, like the other side of a phone call. Some of these can involve almost strong featured roles if they choose not to cast it directly from a principal actor. Then that would be covered in the loop group as well. Every looper might get up and take a shot at that phone call, and whichever one fit in would work. So everything that you hear as you watch a TV show is covered by the loop group.
And Peter, sometimes people don't realize, like, if there's a restaurant scene, the actors in the background are just mouthing something.
Right. And that can sometimes be really, I just want to say, challenging when, you can tell that they're just going, and you have to figure out what words they're actually, coming up with.
Actually, very interesting. So, right. So most shows, the background's very natural. We've actually worked on some shows where they're really miming.
Yeah.
And
our favorite one is clapping, when you see them only going like this and not, making
so the background is doing this.
Yeah.
And then, so there are times when you have to be very creative, or there's a very eager extra who's doing huge mouth movements. And we have to decide, okay, we can't just ignore it. We're going to cover it, but try to make it a little more subtle. So you hear something coming from that mouth that's doing crazy things, but it's not going to also draw your attention completely to that person. So it's like finding that middle of the road.
Specific actors that you have to chase, right? They'll say, okay, what would she be saying here at the restaurant? Thank you for your order. Is there anything else? You have to fill in something that actually will be heard on the show.
In a restaurant, that's actually, we would consider that to be easy. For example, we worked on ABC's Quantico, and that took place at the FBI at Quantico. And, that was a little bit trickier because you have to come up with that correct lingo that would be in that particular situation. But that's where, trained loopers and the really experienced loopers, that's where they really fit in.
But just to go back to your restaurant, what you're saying about a restaurant, the tone would be different if you're in a diner, or if you're doing upscale fancy restaurant, or if you're at a restaurant in France in 1940.
I understand also with casting, they're getting pretty specific. Let's say you're shooting something in Boston. You have to there's so many accents per street. You have to really know there's a variety of Boston accents, for example.
Yeah, certain shows will take place in a location, but the principals, for some mysterious reason, don't have any accent at all.
Right.
Those take place in New York and you'd never know it, or
New Orleans.
Right.
The Queen's Gambit in Louisville, Kentucky. I didn't hear any Southern accents.
So we have to take our cues, also from how the show is we have to be in the style of the reality that's being created. We can't just on the screen. We can't just go in and say, well, it's Boston, so we're going to have we're all going to talk with real thick, Boston accents. We can't do that unless they are. It is, of course, we can ask and work with the sound team and say, hey, would you like a little flavor, even if it's just in call outs, just to make sure we anchor that show there, but not make the whole background sound different than the life that you're seeing from the principals. So there is like a delicate balance.
Peter, what do you mean by call outs?
Well, call outs, let's say if you're on the scene takes place on a street, the sound team is looking for something that will just pop out, that will orally, A-U-R, orally give the impression that you are on that street. So, and so let's say you're on a street in France, you would want, one of the things you would do is cast an actor who's actually Parisian in the correct language and, again, correct time period, and maybe correct slang, and they would call something out. A call out is also, I think, one of the things that when you begin looping, everyone, it's odd almost, because here you are in a room with a microphone and you don't think you have to talk that loud. But if it's call out and they want it to really pop through, it really needs to be like this.
I know that 2018 was a banner year. You did
Yes.
17 shows all in 1 year.
That was a year that might have nearly killed us.
Well, but I'll say, like anything else, you can have a really busy year.
Yeah.
And you can't take anything for granted. You have
No.
a busy year followed by a not. It's
A
just
COVID
like
year.
Yeah, you can have an off year too.
Yeah, absolutely.
COVID year. I mean, 2020. Although we've had an interesting time. I'll say one thing about what we're doing right now is a lot of work is being done remotely, with which is really kind of cool. All the actors are putting in that extra effort to put in these fantastic professional home studios, and we're, the technology that's out there, we're connecting to the engineer and to the sound supervisor, and they're doing all of this loop group work is being done from all over the place, and combining it all together to still kind of add that environment and create that life. So that's cool too. But yeah, I mean, like anything, all of the arts professions, there's never any guarantees.
Yeah.
You work on a project, you put everything you have into it, and you hope that's going to lead to more shows and more work down the line, and that's the best thing you can do.
Well, we really appreciate you joining us here on Biz. We've learned a lot about the business, and you're very unique, we might add, but you're nice. Sometimes that can be a rarity.
Thanks, Bella.
Thank you so much, Bella.
Great talking
Thank
to
you so much. Peter, Pamela Rose, and Jason Harris of the Looping Division for joining us here on Biz, the Biz Spotlight.